and welcome to Up and About. I'm your host, Eniola Lunge. On Up and About, we actively pursue the development and the prosperity of the African continent. The show is positioned as a transgenerational show. This means that we will be sitting with business leaders across generations to discuss and to just leverage on the wealth of knowledge that they have acquired over the years. On this episode, we are going to be focusing heavily on the music industry. And to help us do this, please make welcome Femi Leye.
Femi Leye is a Nigerian guitarist, singer, songwriter, record producer, and composer. He graduated from Federal Polytechnic Ilaro with a degree in food science and technology. He has worked with spoken word artists like Titi Lokwe Shonuga and Miss Wana Wana. He has production credits and has played for artists such as Angelique Kidjo, Akon, Don Jazzy, Tiwa Savage, Adekunle Gold, Burna Boy, amongst others. In July 2019, he released his second studio album, Femi Leye The Album, to critical acclaim. He went on to perform to a 2,500 audience at Sky Theatre, Minnesota, USA, opening for Congolese artist Fally Ipupa.
Welcome, Femi Leye. Thank you so much for agreeing to stay with us today.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
We appreciate it.
We appreciate it. Thank you for having me.
All right, so how did you get into the music industry? What was your first fascination with music?
I think it started with my dad playing records in the house. You know, I met the vinyls, in the days of the vinyl. So my dad had all those records. So I was introduced to Sonny Ade, Ebenezer Obey, Fela Kuti, and the likes. So the greats, I listened to them every morning. He was always playing their records. So I think that was my first introduction into it. But I knew that I wanted to learn how to play instruments, and I think it started with the drums. It started with the drums and then the keyboards, different percussions, and bass, and eventually when I got into the guitar, then later, I started singing. So yeah, I think that was my introduction into the industry itself. Learning how to play these instruments and honing my skills.
Wonderful. So would you say that beginning or venturing out in the industry as a guitarist or just in the early days, were you scared of not making money?
I think I wasn't.
What was that period like?
I think everybody was thinking about that for me. I was so passionate and still very passionate about the music, about making the music, about performing, about just having a chance. Because I remember I would leave school. I remember there was a time I wanted to be in the band with Infinity. I wanted to be their guitarist. And I came to Lagos to say, let me audition. And they were like, we have guitarists already. I went about like that. And I was ready not to get paid, almost like an intern, But just give me the opportunity to just sit here and be in the band, So for the longest time, that's always been the passion. And definitely, the business side of it started coming, later.
Wonderful. So for you, that means, what would you say comes first? The influence you have with your music or the money that comes from music?
Definitely the influence. Because I feel like if you're influential, money is a byproduct of the amazing content that you create. Sooner or later, people will catch on to it. They might not catch on at first. They might not even catch on for a couple of years. But eventually, something will happen that will make them realize that, okay, you are doing something right. So I think the influence is very important. I think one of the things that struck me, especially with my last album, was there's a particular song on the album, with me just playing piano and singing, and a guy sent me a message from the UK telling me that he's been battling depression, and that song actually took him out of depression. So that's influential enough for me, yeah.
Like when I hear these stories, I almost wish that I could be like a musician or a songwriter.
Yeah.
I really want to have that level or that much access to somebody's life that will allow me to actually just come in and invade their own space and just
it's beautiful. It's really beautiful.
I can just imagine.
It's almost a God complex. If God complex, if you are not careful, you have to watch. But it's so gratifying at the end of the day when you see people being affected by what you create, from absolutely nothing.
So what would you say is your biggest success so far, in your opinion? Now, I say this in your opinion because sometimes
it differs.
Definition of success that you're like, oh no, that's not what it is.
Man.
So what is it for you?
I think so far we'll be selling out my show in New York. It was, I wouldn't say it was out of the blues, but I was on tour and we decided to just pull it off, do a show in New York, with absolutely no promotion, nothing, just put word out there that Femi Leye is in New York, we want to have a concert, and it was sold out the day before the show, and to me that's just amazing and mind-blowing. So yeah, I think so far that's it. Yeah.
Amazing. So how did you get your first gig as a musician?
Whoa, first gig as a musician. That was a long time ago. I think first major gig. I'll say first major gig in Lagos.
Okay.
Was
okay, you started in.
I started in school in Ogun State. I was playing in church, doing all of that. But in Lagos was Tarua. Tarua at Bugobri at that time. I reached out to Lydia. Man, Blackberry. I was like, I had just one song. I'm like, I just released this song this week. Please listen, and I would love to perform. And she was like, oh, I love what you do. Come around and come and perform. And I went and I performed, and I got like 2 standing ovations done. And I was like, okay, this is really, really cool. So yeah, that was my first taste of what performance in Lagos or in a civilized place was like.
Sorry.
Ogun State is not that civilized.
I think it's just not the right space to go.
You can, at least for right now, I don't know about probably in the next 2 years. You never know. But at that time, it wasn't. It was an incubated place for me. Let me just use that word.
All right, thank you so much. All right, so we have Femi Leye with us. Don't go anywhere, because when we come back, we will be talking on the importance of relationships in the business industry.
You can't be successful without hard work. Do you understand? So that is one thing I will tell anybody that is going to be in the industry. You have to put in the work, you have to put in your effort, and you just have to be a nice person.
Did you know? 1. Top hours of music gets uploaded to SoundCloud every minute. 2. It takes an average of 220 streams for an independent artist to make $1 on major streaming platforms. 3. Music piracy costs the industry about $12.5 billion every year. 4. Elvis Presley was once told he had no talent. 5. In 1986, Sade Adu became the first international artist of Nigerian descent to win a Grammy. Now you know.
Welcome back. This is still Up and About with me, your host, Eniola Lunge. And of course, our in-studio guest for this episode is Femi Leye, and he is still in the studio with us. So quickly moving on into the what I said before we went on a break. What do you think is the importance of building relationships as a musician in the music industry?
I think relationship is the currency that you have in the industry. It's not money. It's not money, because sometimes you have relationship with people that will last for like about 20 years, and after 20 years is when it will now bring or yield results for you. And I think it's very important. I can say that for a fact, that people that I've met along the way, the reason why I'm here, like from way back, I can remember the first time I traveled, spiraled from Aramide, the artist, to introduce me to Soje, to me doing an acoustic session with him, and then LD was the studio engineer. And because of the way I was in playing and everything, and just in attitude generally, like, would you like to go to Dubai? I never met the guy, and he offered me to go to Dubai that day.
Quick question first. Would you like to?
What would you like to?
What maybe you like to say?
Pardon?
Sorry, I don't say yes.
And I'm like, and till this day, I still reach out to LD. He's in Atlanta now, based there with his family. But I still reach out to him like, hey bro, what's up? How you doing? Blah, blah, But that relationship has lasted for over 10 years.
Wonderful.
So I can say like relationships are very, very important. They come in very handy. And that is why it's very important to be humble and just to be an all-around, nice person. Because you don't know someone that in the, way of the industry that has not blown today, will blow tomorrow. And then the way you treat the person is, definitely how the person will treat you tomorrow when they get to a place of influence. So it's just very important to just be nice to everybody.
And I think this doesn't only specifically apply to the music industry.
Oh yes, every
I think as a human being, generally, if you know, because you are not, you're going to be a top forever, but you're not. So there's always going to be somebody who can help you, somebody who is above you.
Do you know? I'll pick a nice person over a skillful person every day, because they will not give you a headache.
Right.
I've worked with very, very difficult people in this industry, and I can tell you, extremely difficult people that I would not like to work with anymore. But I'll pick a less skillful person that is nice to say, okay, you are going somewhere, you are ready to learn, as opposed to someone that I'm here now, and that kind of attitude, almost like a god complex. I've seen that throughout my career, and I'm like, this does not pay anybody. And then you see the spiral effect at the end of the day, that they don't actually last.
Wow.
You just come crumbling down.
So what would you say is an ideal work ethic for any budding, musician to take on?
You have to be extremely hardworking. You have to be the hardest worker in the room. I think I imbibed that early on in my career. So even me being here, of course, I've not gotten there, but I don't stop working. And probably one of the things that my wife fights me about, I'm always creating, I'm always in the studio, like late nights, and I get like probably 2-3 hours of sleep, and I'm back creating, because you just have to be a hard worker. You can't be successful without hard work. Do you understand? So that is one thing I would tell anybody that is going to be in the industry. You have to put in the work, you have to put in your effort, and you just have to be a nice person. At the end of the day.
Wonderful. So you mentioned something about, your wife complaining and sleeping.
Good complainer. She understands.
It's okay, since you're bringing in the money. But I want to ask, so at what point do you balance, being hardworking and having work-life balance?
Wow, that's okay. So I think this conversation I had with myself before we had our baby, and I was like, I have to know my son. I have to be close to my wife. The industry is structured in a way that if you're successful as a musician, your life as a husband or as a father
will suffer.
That will not suffer. Like, that is a standard. So what I did was just to create a studio in my house downstairs. So if I have to do anything that I need to do, I can just quickly go upstairs and do it and then come back. But my son is always with me in the studio, so we're always spending time together. I take time to just sit with him on the floor and we play with his toys and all that, and then, if my wife needs to gist, she just comes to the studio and I just dump everything and we can sit down there for 3 hours straight just talking.
I can imagine.
And if I'm not doing that, definitely, we are in the times that we are in, definitely go for my shows and then come back home. I'm a very, very private person, so I don't do parties or after parties or things like that. I don't like it. I don't like to do. I don't like it. It's just too much noise. I'm a musician. I work with noise, so any extra noise, I just nah.
I feel you.
Yeah.
100%. I like what you're saying. So now I want to ask, for anybody who might be wondering, when did you first start thinking of your music as a business venture?
I think about 5 years ago, like as a business.
Yeah, and how did you realize that there was a gap between just being talented and actually, being successful or just being, productive with your music?
Okay, so when you realize that you're not being paid your worth, and because you don't know your worth. So what I did was to register my company, Femi Leye Entertainment.
I love it. Register that company, creative.
Register my company, had an account and all that, and I started working and started building. And that was when I was working at a hotel. So, and I was working with different big brands at that time. You cannot be coming with personal accounts now, so you have to come correct. You have to come correct. So I did that, and I also realized that there was so much to music than just producing and performing. There's like, you have people that are not musicians, that they're actually the ones making money off music. So you have publishing, you have your royalties, you have licensing, you have sync licensing, you have different things of being a musician. And I think one of the first projects I worked on, and one of the first people that, you know, not just brought it to my attention, but decided to, you know, put me as a part of it, was when I did Femi Leye with Reminisce. His manager, Osage,
really like that
happens
song.
to be my friend. So I did the acoustic version. I produced it for Aramide and Chidima. And so instead of paying me, they just offered me, you know, points, and they offered me a percentage off of earnings from everything. And I was like, okay, so this is the thing. Instead of just getting the check one time, you can make money for the rest of your life. So I did that for myself too. So I think the first time I went to London, I linked up with, I had a second manager in London, and she helped me with my own publishing and everything. I registered with a publishing company there, PRS, and then so I started registering all my works, and you realize that it will start accumulating one time, and
Exactly.
I can't, like, when my children begin to get older and, you know, money, you know, there's already money, that's an investment. Also, people want to use your music for movies. I think it's different here, because people just take your stuff, but it doesn't really work like that for me, because I'll catch you, and then I have a lawyer, so I will sue you from here to next year.
And that's cool money.
Oh yeah, no, you pay times 5.
That's cool
you
money.
know. But there are people that are actually smart, like in Danny TV, for example. We had a signing, you know, I have money from YouTube and all these other things that goes through to my publisher, and then I get my money. Do you understand? So, you know, because a lot of people, oh, if you put your music in movies, they'll make you popular. I'm not looking for your popularity. I'm so sorry. Give me my money. Thanks.
That should be a line. Give me my money, thanks. Thank you.
Give me my money.
So we have to quickly go on a short break, but when we come back, we're going to talk about, you know, having structure rather, to your business as a young musician, or even as a musician already, you know, being in the space for a while, but really not knowing how to really go about the business side of the arts. So we're going to be discussing that when we come back from the short break.
We claim that the industry doesn't have structure, but you as an artist, you have to put on structure for yourself, and you have to have your own back, you know, and understand that content is king.
How to succeed in the industry. 1. Have a patient and persistent attitude. 2. Learn to improvise. 3. Never stop learning. 4. Stay committed. 5. Perform regularly.
Welcome back. This is still Up and About, your premium lifestyle #1 talk show on everything entrepreneurship. I'm your host, Eniola Lunge, and still with me in the studio is Femi Leye. So without wasting much more time, you know, let's quickly dive into the business side of the music industry. So how can any musician looking to put structure to their arts go about that?
Get a lawyer first.
Get a lawyer.
Before you get a manager, get a lawyer. So important. I've been using the same lawyers in like 6 years now. You know.
Who's your lawyer? I almost feel like
Akiyemi
can I I'm a lawyer too.
Akiyemi Law, he has been.
Okay, yeah. I know him. I don't know him
before he
personally.
blew up, we were underground together.
That's wonderful.
So we are growing up.
And I think that's something we should, because it's so important. People want to just jump on somebody who's already successful.
Yeah.
But I think it's so important. Building together is so.
That's relationship right
exactly,
there.
it's so important.
I'd rather go for that guy than someone that is known, really.
Exactly.
Because I trust him, you know, and we have mutual respect for each other. And he loves what I do, so.
And he's really good at what he does as well.
Very good. So
I love it.
Yeah.
Okay, so get a lawyer, #1.
Yeah, get a lawyer. Sort out your publishing.
What is publishing?
Publishing is basically what you get off of your music. Aside from, you know, when you buy music, that's one part of it. When people use your music, licensing, all these things, they use it for like a movie, like games and all that. You get publishing, you get royalties off of you know, everybody that uses your music, they have to pay before they can use it. They can't just use it because they want to use it.
Exactly.
Do you understand? You have to. So that is why it's very important to have a lawyer so that, you know, and then you get a publisher who can chase, or because in different parts of the world, you know, they might be using your music in India, so your publisher chases down where you might be in one movie, you know, or even in a store. When you go to a store, like, you know, any store, you know, and they are playing music, they pay publishing right society of any country.
What about what? Okay, this is jumping the gun, but what about broadcasting on radio?
Radio people pay. When you play a song on radio, you're supposed to play the artist that you're playing the song.
Is that the norm in Nigeria, though?
That is not the norm in Nigeria, but they claim that they pay when they. No, I've never seen the money before, so I don't know. And also, so
it's audio money.
here's the funny thing, though. Whenever I want to put out new music and I try to send to radio stations, of course, payola, people try to reach out and say, "Yo,
I'm sorry, payola.
It's a term you have to pay people before they play your music."
Okay.
I'm like, so there was a song I released. We're like, bros, we'll send your account number so that you could bless the boys. I'm like, I want to bless myself, but really, you're supposed to pay me for playing my music. So they remove my music off their station. I'm like, okay. Like, you think you're, because you need content.
Exactly.
And you need good content. And if I'm providing good content and you don't have that content, it's all well and good. Somebody else will pick up the content.
Exactly.
You know, we get worried about things like this. Like, oh, nobody's playing my music. My new record, Dance With Me, probably just a station or two in Nigeria playing it right now. And then somebody randomly just reached out to me from the UK. I'm like, we want to play your music. We love what you do. And they premiered it and they started playing it.
Wow.
And I'm like, for Nigeria radio stations. Oh my God. And then you now go out and do something right and you say, our own family. Oh my baddie. I'm not your own.
Because it's like up and about on.
Are you part of them? Did they send you? No, but I'm just saying that is the right thing to do.
Exactly.
It's the right thing to do. You play someone's music on. They actually pay. I heard they pay. So it's either between the radio stations and then the right society people that don't deliver the money to the artist. I remember Brian said that he got 12,000 for his entire catalog from Koson. For one day, for his entire catalog that they remitted to him.
For playing throughout the year.
Throughout the entire
Maybe
year.
they forgot it. You know, that year, maybe snakes were moving.
Oh my God! You know, so but that's
actually hilarious.
It is. I remember they sent me an email telling me to come and join their society. I'm like, hold your society to yourself. You know, it doesn't work like that. We claim that the industry doesn't have structure, but you as an artist, you have to put on structure for yourself, and you have to have your own back. You know, and understand that content is key. So this is what will make you money for the rest of your life. Fela's children are still making money off of his catalog forever. Do you understand? Because of these right choices. You know, there was a time that they weren't playing Fela's music in Nigeria and they were playing it abroad. And he would just go do his tours, come back.
Because they pay there.
They pay there. And then we are always, may they like me for you, may they like me. And it's okay. It's okay, I understand, because, you know, fame is actually also like a currency in the industry. But then if you play your cards right, you don't have to be popular to be making money.
I think something else we could also be, highlighting is the fact that apart from our own personal, I'm saying our own, like, but apart from your own personal structure in your own business, I think artists also need structure in the music industry itself.
Definitely.
Because from what you're saying, there's definitely a gap between productivity and the revenue that they're getting back, because there is nobody who is making sure that the artists are paid. There's nobody who's making sure that nobody is plagiarizing. And let's talk about, is there plagiarizing in the music industry?
I don't think so.
Right? Because that would be hard.
Oh yeah, very, very hard. Another thing that I can say is that for us to have structure right now, the present climate that we have has to be removed. I'm being very nice by saying be removed. Like, you need to open up another body that will actually be for the artist, which is what it's supposed to be. If you collect money for an artist, you should give it to the artist.
Exactly.
Even if you're going to take a percentage out of it.
I mean, even
it's normal, do you understand? But not like holding everything to yourself and then not remitting to the artist.
Right.
Because a lot of people are actually making money off of the music, but they are not even getting it in the first place. So, yeah, I think it's one of the things that needs to be done.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. So what would you say that agents are still necessary in this day and time?
Very, very necessary. Booking agents are very, very necessary because they get you gigs, they get you shows. If you're an agent out there, reach out to your boy. But yeah, it's really, if you see, for example, you see like a Tiwa Savage performing at Rock Nations Made in America. There was an agent that made that happen. She didn't just get there and just call Jay-Z or like, Jay-Z, yo, I want to perform at your show. It doesn't work like that. An agent calls the manager, they book her, and then they sort out everything, and then she goes and does the show. So they are very important. Very, very, very.
Wonderful. I mean, that's all the time we have for this episode on the music industry. It has been so enlightening. Thank you so much, Femi Leye, for coming on. You have been you have been very informative. You have been very vulnerable. You have told us as it is. And we really appreciate that. And I'm sure that everyone watching who is in the industry also appreciates that you came here and you really just let us know what was going on real time. And so if you are in the music industry and you have just been wondering, what can I do to make to just improve on not just the crafts, but the business side of things, I hope you have gotten some insights from all the gems that have been dropped today.